emre so say yebekenkan a yebekan ni nia ede ama pepepe yeda wase se wagibre ehwe news edin a meje so anope eni Maame Esi Nkrumah yeda ne ye ho sima abaye ba no pensem no yebehya ase ede ama Ebusuafo mesan eka wo se anopa news etwego eroy abe fontentam video su Facebook any YouTube KFM TV GH enunti ubetimi akoho na wakohwe bi na wa share na wa like na wode wadwenche egwa se amai kama sa fei ana wode we fidie no ato ha aha aye KFM TV anopa eye nonso kase ana yede ebro ubesan ubetimi asan ede wadwenche no afaye WhatsApp line so 0246239070 0246239070 ano pensem no ye hyaase ede ama odia eye mrahye bedwane a owo eye wejagbawe abato mpeso aso a wosan eye second eye deputy minority whip ewo mrahye bedwafie eye onmonyamfo Jerry Ahmed eye shaibu no de ensembi abetudwa wo chemse eye akwetia MP onmonyamfo NSC akomene ho nsema abetudwa ewo mrahye bedwafie ene court etonsa ede afreni se won bepie mu ewo court no beyi ne ho ano enfamfa sansem no eho a wo mo echem se eye NSC akumi atoto na adwen mu a waye na adwen se wontimi enkopie mu ewo court na ensem ba akumienu bi a wo mo epese wo mo ebisa no na we yi ano de afa ho eno ana eye Jerry Ahmed ede abetudwa wo chem se senior court sifa edi asem no emfa emrakwan so chese no eye ade bi a etia Ghana ye democracy no eno nti ka wo mfa kwan papa so na wo mo ni eye onmonyamfo NSC akumi enkasa eno ene betimi aboa na kwan a wo mo efa so ene ne dele no eno eye ade bi a entwa ye kra nansem we emra eye Jerry Ahmed woni nsem chofo twetwen komo endrada ewo February bosmini da etoso eduonum no eho ana eye osoafo ede nsem we etu edwa yentie ne nsem no ebi emra.
Number 3, Kuforiga. Moreover, all the parties to the certiorari and prohibition application, including the judge, His Lordship Justice Emmanuel Senyor Amedehe, who is the respondent to this application before the Supreme Court, have been duly served. Further legal steps will be taken, and the minority caucus in Parliament will address the Ghanaian public on their way forward. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, Ghana's democracy thrives on fairness, the rule of law, and the principles of justice. The actions taken against Honorable Ernest Yaokumi threaten not only his rights, but also the very foundation of our democratic processes and principles. The judicial system must not be weaponized to serve partisan interest or undermine the will of the people of Akwetia. We call on all well-meaning Ghanaians, civil society organizations, and the relevant authorities to ensure that justice prevails. The law must be applied fairly, and due process must be respected. Any attempt to subvert the democratic will of the people through judicial overreach must be resisted. Ghana's democracy is bigger than any individual or institution. It is our collective duty to save.
Ebusuafo enunti nsɛmwe ana Jerry eye Ahmed editu dwa emra woni nsɛmtwofo ehia eye no ebusuafo ye to ansɛm ne so ede amamodia endrada wo February bosumini da etoso eduono ewa afimpinu ni eduono enum emu ana Ghana mampeni His Excellency John Dramani Mahama eyi ni 19 eye member cabinet a wo mo ewo mrahye wo chem se ende ministers ahodo na ana we yi omo a wo mo ebeboa se ne be ya edwuma ebetimi akoso ewo my Ghana ha na nsem we Minister of State for Government Communication onmunyam for Felix kwachi ofosu endra ana woni nsem twofo hia ya wode nsem we etudwa wogina mampani John Dramani Mahama anemu ebubo sa cabinet na wo mudin ewo hosa yenti nsem bia Felix over kwachi ofosu editudwa.
Every president is required by the Constitution to compose a cabinet. And that cabinet, once composed, must begin regular meetings to fashion out policy and determine the direction of governance. So, as a first requirement, President Mahama has composed his cabinet. And as you may be aware, the constitutional requirement is that cabinet must be made up of 19 ministers. And so the first point of business is to put together this body of 19 ministers, chaired by the president himself. And I would proceed to announce the names of the 19 ministers who form the cabinet. First on the list is the Minister for Finance, the Minister for the Interior, Minister for Health, Minister for Defense, the Attorney General and Minister for Justice, the Minister for Energy and Green Transition, the Minister for Education, the Minister for Trade, Agribusiness and Industry, Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Minister for Foreign Affairs, Minister for Food and Agriculture, Minister for Communication, Digital Technology and Innovations, the Minister for Roads and Highways, Minister for Environment, Science and Technology, Minister for Works, Housing and Water Resources, Minister for Local Government, Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs, Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection, Minister for Transport, Minister for Labor, Jobs and Employment. So these are the 19 ministers who form cabinet together with the president. Now, apart from these 19 ministers, other ministers are made to attend. And so you find that the description for that would be in attendance. So the following ministers were in attendance at cabinet today. So the Minister of Sports and Recreation, the Minister of Youth Development and Empowerment, the Minister for Fisheries and Aquaculture, Minister for Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts, Minister of State in charge of special initiatives, and my good self, the Minister for State responsible for government communications, the Minister for
Ebusia for enunti jumede endrada eneko so a Felix Ofosu kwache a wakasa edima Ghana mampeni His Excellency John Dramani Mahama editu dwa wabobosa wo so afo ina wo mudin se wo mo ana wo mo 19 member cabinet no wo ma shebedwafia Ghana obibia eni age ede afa ho esa yeto ansem no so apem akonsem frofrom ede ama wo anopedia endrada ana womo elanche former Nigerian president Ibrahim Olanche ni autobiography na jumedie nase no wotonsa edefre Ghana mampani dada Nana Adudanko Akufo-Addo emani kopie jumedie no ase na mampani dada Nana Adudanko Akufo-Addo ensem bebre na enatudwa wo chemu se sesi ade wonu de wo hwe nim se African nations no ene Ghana nyina yebetimi aye collaboration na ya kabum na enoma bi a wose ye no yetimi se na ebe ya ebibi man no ebetimi etum pon papa esensan bibia no yedi yeni ebeto foreign aid eso mampeni dada Nana Adudanko Akufo-Addo echem se bibi sase a eno ade bia entwa ye no nte wose African nations ni yetimi nkabum na ye ba ko na enoma bi a wose ye no yetimi hwe na ye na eno pe ene ade a ebetimi aboa ye nsemwe mampeni dada His Excellency Nana Adudanko Akufo-Addo ana oditudwa ewo dwumedie no ase.
And the world was brought to a thundering halt by a virus. I do not think I need to go into the details of the daily updates of the casualties around the world and the projections about how the streets of African cities will be littered with dead bodies. But I would remind all of us that the lessons, both immediate and long-term, that emerge from the COVID-19 crisis were harsh. The first was what we had always known, but are often lulled into thinking could be different, which is that there is no such thing as charity in international relations. Nobody is going to do vaccines until their own needs have been fully satisfied. African countries therefore need to cooperate with each other and not count on aid from the international community. That is why Senegal, Nigeria, South Africa, Rwanda, Ghana, and others have taken on the responsibility of manufacturing their own vaccines. The second was to admit the urgency of the infrastructure deficit in our countries, especially in the health sector, as was exposed by the pandemic. We seized the opportunity to embark on a massive hospital health facilities construction program. In Ghana, we've embarked on what is commonly known as Agenda 111, a bold initiative which seeks to establish hospitals and facilities in all 206 districts in the country. While the pandemic was active, we concentrated on saving lives and tried to manage the pressures on the economy triggered by the pandemic as best as we could. But by the time the all-government task force I set up to manage the crisis stopped meeting, having completed its work, the buoyant economy we were touting at the beginning of 2020 was on its knees. We had to accept that in spite of the obvious advances we had made in the management of the economy in the first 3 years, we had not achieved the resilience needed to withstand shock of the unprecedented global economic meltdown. We faced a major economic crisis, and with the world's capital markets close to us, we ended up going to the IMF, not an easy decision to make. The economic difficulties brought people onto the streets. And I will say that even though the demonstrations were not exactly on the scale.
Ebusiafo enuntin same way Anna Ghana Mampeni Dada His Excellency Nana Adudankwe Kufuado editujwa emra wokopie mo ewo eye ankane Nigeria Mampeni na kache emra wode sa dwumede ehihye so ewo ho yeto ansem ne so akonsem fufuru dia Mampeni John Dramani Mahama abetujwa se eye endakaka entem no ade a wode ne first State of the Nation's address ebeba betujwa ama Ghana for na yeso etimi atibi na America ka obedi Mampeni ewo man no normal bi a waye ede abwa Ghana no wode ninia atudwa ede amaye na nsem we eye ni spokesperson Felix Ofosu Kwache anogina Mampeni John Dramani Mahama anemu ana wode asem we etudwa yentie ne nsem bia wode etudwa
worse than we had known in the period of the elections. But the minister proposals, the policy propositions, and the program that President Mahama has put on the table were sufficient people all these years under the new Patriotic Party, where economic mismanagement and imprudent decision-making was commonplace. In a few days' time, President Mahama will be addressing Parliament. He will be delivering a message on the state of the nation to Parliament, and he will take the opportunity to delve deep into our current economic state for economic revival and resuscitation. A few days after that, the National Economic Dialogue will take place from the third public servants, public officials, and other interested parties in the Ghanaian economy will meet to deliberate how we can collectively achieve consensus on the steps on the road to entities. First, what government's policies are in respect of the economy.
In some way, Anna Felix of Osu Kwache, editu dwa watcher say enche bia mampeni John Dramani Mahama any Ghana foina ebeba abe kasa ebusia for yet one semne so ede amount anope edia enche bia Anna civil and local government staff association womo ewo my Ghana ha you trying to tell from say closer for edbetu dwa mo HS say Ghana mampeni John Dramani Mahama anhwe na wenyi samo adumbotwe ayede no I say registrar Edma birth and death registry now when you na enya ade a wo so so won beti ase de biara da eno nti wo mo de nsem we etu dwa mo HSA wo mo de strike ebe hihye so say mampeni John Dramani Mahama anhwe anye sade we anfa momo a na no ana endra abeto dwa wo mo share date Edma Ghana fa na wo mo chese wo February bosome da etoso eduonu mu no ana wo mo de wo mo strike ebe hihye so ampampa ade a endra da weni ekopiem ewo Northern Regional Department edema birth and death ewo ho a sa registrar na say dan ewo ho ya wo mu chese wo mo alloki ni nia ampenifo ede sa strike ahihye so wo mu chese wo mo a wo mo ekọ register wo mo ma ahodo ewo ho no wo mo koye no na womo aloke womo dan ni a womo chese ampampa strike no womo de ahihye so ewo ho sai no nti womo bosha womo share mampeni John Dramani Mahama no ade a ende de womo edi so a civil and local government staff association of Ghana closer for womo strike a womo de betu dwa no womo ede ahihye so ewo on my Ghana ha say ebusuafo mesan kai wo say anopa news etwego ewo abe fontentam video so Facebook any YouTube KFM TVGH and until betimi alcohol now wakohwe bi na wa share na wa like na do wadwenche enso ede guase amai kama wetimi so ede wadwenche no afa ye WhatsApp line so 0246239070 0246239070 ye consent from ede amaudia Minister of Lands and Natural Resource onmonyam for Emmanuel ama Kofi boa na wode abetu dwa wochem sesi a woka say Ghana ye forestry reserve no 44 Ghana's forestry reserve and mu chese under attack ye papa illegal miners no womo etrumika akokwa and illegal mining no womo wo hoye papa sesi a do mu chese kwan bia wo befa so a wo behwe na womo akon etia galamse wo man mu no womo befa so na womo akon etia esan say senia galamse foi eno ade bia entwa ye kwan no nti osafo ana osafo Emmanuel ama Kofibo ana odin nsem we etudwa ewo mrahye bedwa fe yentie ni nsem no ebi.
Speaker, it will interest you to note that out of the 288 forest reserves that I have mentioned, a whopping 44 of these forest reserves are under serious attack by illegal miners. And an estimated area of over 5,000 hectares has been devastated. And to put it literally, about 7,000 standard football fields is what I'm talking about. That has been devastated. 7,500 football fields gone. This is mostly occurring in these specific areas. One in the Ashanti region, the Bakwai, in Kawie, in the western region, Takwa, Dabuasi, and in the western north, Bibiani, Enche, and Juaboso, especially. Mr. Speaker, the approach adopted by illegal mining gangs is quite alarming and frightening. They are heavily armed with sophisticated weapons and very violent with large numbers of excavators, making it extremely difficult for forest guards and the rapid response team to control them since they have no sophisticated weapons to control them. Over 9 out of the 44 forest reserves, and Mr. Speaker, this is very important, over 9 out of the 44 forest reserves have been completely taken over by these illegal mining tasks with impunity. And the Forestry Commission no longer have access to these forest reserves. This situation is there
Ebusiafo enuntin semwe anna eye onmonyafo Emmanuel eye Kofi ama boa edetudwa ewo mahebedwafie yegina ne nseme so na yetwa ye ho akwaje aboafo nkrato abaye ba nsem dodo na ana ye de beto aso ama.
For and then Yamakwaba at the bar, a KFM musical shop. The Tosumiano, who free a Kumasa Malcolm that Damono, a sunny at the bar at Dumino, Sabran Udu, a Sambra Junction, a Sambra Hotel, Quantana Sope. Now shop on any Sambra Hotel and a Dinsha anymore. Would the free Sambra Hotel, a sunny at the co, Nankane and Hagan Hono, Annie, a hot and a KFM musical shop. Dear Tosumiano, yet be no fofro. Now, dear Ekani said, if you dear papa a timiche, the Odia sorry, dear Udi grow agro ahudo. Juma dear be a woody open here a young fidya musical instrument piano, a KFM into a say Ghana Muntie Asantema Muntie, a KFM musical shop. Anna Sabre, Yabian of Fofro Monochai, a war Premper the 2nd Street. We free all men come down and now sunny Ediko Edumno and Udu Sambra Hotel Quantana so now what done on Sunny Faso Anas KFM musical shop ye ewo Yani Sambra Hotel Anna Ewe anymore Yachao Abribia
Gran Messi Sir Maya Proud and I say Maya Ja Nefri Kumasia Dum KFM instrument store. Obi bisasa se bomen fo dia what to know when you see that what the near my papa ejira wanim na what to say yes what to know bibia kan wakoma ni nyina free KFM instrument store Kumasi Adum se mi tra na me to no ma mi tibi nya ho me ka fi se fi papa mu anim na mi kina no wo betra ye ko ma ya do se kana twa nanka kana ensem fu ayi.
Medo benami Ghana duko do ajakle ho duko kata. Mie chonya nwa de benami cho Talent Microfinance Limited Gajadopa. Mie wona susu savings, adishie, school buafo, cashback, ple bubwa okata. Nenyebe egajom de mi agbo la letie tomegbeko ateun aho gadodo. Kenenyebe egajom vivi la nenyebe o gahia ola ateun ava de o gai kenehia fa.
Kanenyebe mi foncho mi afa jomu yo kenye mi afa gadodo nyawa. Business loan elemiashi, church financing elemiashi, salary loan elemiashi, eye bubo li kenye personal loan. Nenyebe mi foncho business loan a enye gadodo ikemie nana asichalao nenyebe washiba keke alum eleswe uya va talent mi pepegede nwo nenye washigba lesua ne woge wokekegede ji to talent pomonu ome nenye be mi foncho mi afa salary loan a enye gado mo mi kemi vuna mi afa jirudu dola nke ga nyo he ya va talent wo pay slip pe bank statement ye kwenye nwi hia o na koko ho salary loan le rate mi to keke akeji church financier personal loan va nenye habobo ma soli hama eji fufofo sankuo jitao olila ashibobwe kekeake mie flegeno na no hem vi choji nto jinwade wade kwereka mo npopo kai ganyu he ya talent kuna kpohe ya ole chagbagba na do tare talent bena wo gado mo nwa anobo buenami akpenami
Ezibe ya nyafi ke talent la
Talent Microfinance Jengo Amegan Shipe Ape Latina Tejibo Hotame.
Miape Kapomoyenya 050-129-1298. Hello 050-128-9119. Talent Woga Kwamanu Banta.
Talent Microfinance, your channel of wealth.
Ebusianfo yeguswa edam asesa no pay majebre etimo TV ho ehwe KFM TV news mesan eka obiom se news etwago ewe abe fonten tam video su Facebook any YouTube KFM TV GH no nti betimi akoho na wakohwe bi ne wa share na wa like na ode wadwentre no egu ase ede amayen kama emre ebe mai bekenkan ni nia ede amawo yeto ansem ne so akọ ensem from the demokopie mo ewa asante mantem anmanbo a efri edwedifo a wo ewo kumase ene ne mpotem eba ne se mo kyese efi adokoro wo mu yie papa wo ekyese wo befa ha no na bola go wo befa na bola go no ana mo kyem se sisi ade wo mo abre esan se wo mo no eye kumase Metropolitan Assembly KMF akasa dodo na se ne be ya sa efi a ekoso hoi ebetimi etwa ede ama mo kyem se wokopie mu ewo eye edum ene kejeti a sa market ewo ho no efi de ebi ados wo hoye papa obi didi a na enwura no wato atwene efom ho a eno ana mo twem se sade we ekoso a eno eya ade bi a entwe ye ntimpanifo empe ekwan bi so se ne be a wo betimi ahwe na wo mo ne wo mo a wo mo ebo sabra we akasa na se wo mo de mra bi ebegu kwan mu se wo a ye behu se wo ye bibi se no mra no ebetimi ene wo edi ne ye papa nti amani bo we efri eye asante mantem ana eba ewo hosa yeto ansem ne so akonsem fufo mu dia awehosem ana ebeto dwa ye de mo ekopiem ewo gomwa nyanya no a ewo gomwa East District ewo mfimfini mantem na amaniba efi ho eba ne se abemu anya a wonya mfinhia edu a efe ne se Nuridin eye Abubakar ana mo echese eye Salt Lake a ewo gomwa nyanya no abofre akotomu ama no afato ato ananam ewo nsedo a we no aye awehosem ye papa ede ama eye gomwanyanya no amafo ene na wofo a wo mo ewo hosa ne no ana assemblyman a owo apanyanya no electoral area eye Isaac Kwansa ede etudwa wo chemse sade we ya esiye no wenye de dikan anase de twato wo chese impempi na sa Salt Lake nipa dodo na ana wo mutimi etumo mo chese sisi ade wo mbehwe na mo de nhihye pa egu kwam se ne be ya sa Lake intimi endi ewuse ebiom na wosan ede futo ekoma awofo a wo mo ewo my Ghana ha ne titiu eni gomanyanya no eye awofo wo chese impempi na eye amoma moni enko mo mofra eho se mugya amode a bibisei ebetimi ato wo mo eno nti wode yakọ kese ene eko ede ama ebusua se atorenchem we etimi ato wo na wosan etwemu sesisi ade eye abofra no ne imu ne de wo mu de kopie mu o Mother and Child Hospital eye mortuary a ewo ho a wo mo chemse wo mo preserve atwenta wo mo ebekọ akọpẹ ne krabe eno nti amanimbo we efri eye gomwanyanya no a ewo gomwa East District ewo mfimfini mantem ana eba ye gina we so na yada ne ye ho sima abaye ba ye de nsem no ebekọ kopie mu ewo edwedi mu ama Ebusianfo ye de mo eko edwedie mu nsemu dia Ghana mampeni His Excellency John Dramani Mahama ede abetudwa we die wo criticize eye mampeni dada Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo se eye na aban so no Ghana economy no wentimi anhwe so ye kra ma economy no etimi aye basa ewo man emu na wode nsem we etudwa wo mra wo kopie mu ewo Ministry of Labor Jobs and eye Employment eho eye ndrada February bosmi ne da etoso eye eduonu ewa afimpini ne eduonu enum emwe ana mampeni John Dramani Mahama ede nsem wi na etudwa yentie ne nsem a wode tudwa ewo ministry ho emma.
Comrades, you know we are your natural allies, and we've worked together for many years. One thing that is a cardinal principle for us is to tell the truth at all times. We all knew the economy was in crisis, but some of the things I'm discovering myself, I mean, it's been a criminal handling of our economy. And Ghana is a crime scene, actually, because how a government can have been so reckless, I cannot understand. But we're faced with a reality, and our options are very few. We can behave like the ostrich and hide our heads in the sand and let the economy crash. But then what effect would it have on Ghanaian households and everybody? And so I've told him, I said, cut expenditure as much as you like. Even we ourselves in Office of Government Machinery cut as much of our budget as you like, because we all must make those sacrifices. A certain distrust of the political class has arisen, because it's like when everybody else is tightening their belts, the political class is loosening its belts. But I want to assure you that we're all going to tighten our belts, and there will be no wasteful expenditure. It is said that we create and share. And so let's start cooking the meal now so that we can share when we have created. But right now, the meal is not only insufficient, the cooking pot is even leaking. And so I'll just appeal to you that let's tamper our demands for this year. And once we get out of the woods, we've set good targets to bring inflation down so that the cost of everything will come down. We've set targets to grow the economy, to make things better. And when the cake is baked and is bigger, we'll share bigger. We are proposing an independent emoluments committee that would set the incomes for everybody from the president right down to the ordinary laborer. We're prepared to walk this journey with you, but I just appeal to you that let's reach agreement on this one so that we use this year as the year of correction. And then after we've corrected, we'll see how the economy continues to go. Once the economy moves in the direction that we are all hoping for, we all, if we have an independent emoluments committee, maybe if you suggest 35%, I'll support you because it will affect my pay too.
Nuntin Semwe ana Ghana Mampeni His Excellency John Dramani Mahama edi etu eja yeguswa ewe dwede nsem bia yeguswa ewo Mampeni John Dramani Mahama ensemi so wode nsemwe etu dwawe e no sign edi nsemwe ekoma labor unions ahodra wo mo ewo my Ghana wo chem se eye wo mo wages demand edi ma 2025 nkebe ya wo mo entwentwen so kakra no ne de o hye mo bo se Ghana ye economy no etimi ejina ne nan so yie kama edmaya eye wo mu demand no wo betum edi amon ankasa wo mani ebeji ye papa nti se si ade ade a oguso a edi nhihye pa egu kwan mu se ne be ya Ghana ye economy no ebetimi ejina ne nan so edi aman no nti won de wo hwe mo se wo munya ntubu ase na afi we etwem na se Ghana ye economy no ejina ne nan so brani edi man ne ehu se bibia aye kama ewo my Ghana ha enye omo mpo no mbeka wono ankasa behwe na wo mo salary ene wo mo normal demands bi no watutuni niemu ede ama wodi nsem we etudwa endra da wo me okopiem ewo Ministry of Labour, Jobs and Employment ho ana Mampeni John Dramani Mahama ede sansen we na etudwa ewo ehosa ye to ansem ne so ewo edwede mu ede ama wodia eye Felix Ofosu kwachi wono ana woye aban eye kasamafo ewo mrahye na ono ana wode abetudwa wo chem se eye dum so anifu wo ho nsem a ebeto odwa se ene Ghana yefu assign no nti eyedum so de ebeba wo my Ghana ha sei no eno ana Felix kwachi ofosu de abetudwa wo chem se Ghana ha president papa ana yenya na no nti Ghana man pani John Dramani Mahama abone humodin ama eyefu ododo na ana ebepie mu ewo my Ghana mu echese safu wa aba no ade a eno ebetimi aboa yen de yetwa mfe bebre esase fuwe ade a edosu ye papa nsem we Felix ofosu kwachi ana odi tudwa emra woni nsemtwefo etwetwe nkomo endrada February bosumini da etoso eduonu no ewo afimpinini eduonu enum emu yenti nsem bia wode etudwa no ebi ebusuafo enuntinsem we ana Felix ofosu kwachi edi betudwa ewo hosa yeto aso edi amode edumu kopie mu ewo Asante Mantem na manibo a afiri Asante Mantem eba enise wo chese edum so bi amane homisu wo hoyie papa eno ene de ende light out ochina light out wo chese edum so no eyade a ha won yie papa eno enam so ema ndwuma bebre na ana sade we tete wo mo chese ukọ banka dum so wo ma wo ton ade so a wo mo efesi dum so ebi eno ama generators no ados ye papa sesi ade udi weni echemu e wa Asante Mantem a wo mo echem se generator esu no ados wo ho ye papa mo chese esai wo mo enoma sa wo ni ska ode kwoto generator na chese wo noma ana eke etwe ede amonu ti sesi ade wo mo esu frempinifo se wo mo ntimi enko momwa na enche bia ana mpinifo edbetu dwom chese sa adum so a ekoso ewa Asante Mantem ni nia ne se eye wo mu cables ahudro bi eho atoto chema ewo hosa enunti ana ama sa adum so ekoso na obibia enka makoma ento mo yem eyade a wo muguso a ede nhihye pa egu ekwan mu se wo mbehwe na wo mo asosa wo hawi ano ede ama emo enunti Asante Mantem sema efi ho eba enisa mu chese dum so no adoso enunti mpenifo enhwe na wo mo enye bibi emfanfa ho emma wo mo edwade nsem no ana eguso ayede ebrem no na betodwa se eye pamoyo na wo mo ekra wo mu chese dodo na wo mo ekra no wo mo echemu se sesi ade wo afimpinu ni eduonu ennan emu no wo mo echemu se adropi ededu 50% a wo mo echemu se eye pam Development Association of Ghana ana wo mo de sankai bo we ede abetu edwana eye wo mo president eye Samo eye Avala wo no ana ochemu se decline ya abe eye lack of support wo mo enya emwa emfemfiri eye mpinifo eho anu nti ana mpempina se wo mo de eye ngui ekwa man hodro so a wo mo chese kane no se na nkrofo do na etono no eno eso ate aba 50% a wo mo echem se wo se mpinifo hwe na wo mo timi ebo mo na wo mo adwuma a wo mo so wo mo eye edididi eho ebetimi abamfa so de ama wo esanse sesi ade wo mo ebreye papa wo mo enya atofo ewo san nti we efre pam Oil Association of Ghana wo mo ana mo de sankai bowe abetudwa wo mo de kọ de ama Ghana empenifo ewo se busuafo ye gina sansemi so na ye twa ye ho sima abaye ba ene gede nsem ana ye de ebro ebusuafo mesan kai obiom se anopa news ubetimi edi wadwenche no afa 0246239070 0246239070 ye abefo ntintan videos no ya dia news etwego ewo hoye pa Facebook ani YouTube KFM TV gine channel ti ubetimi akoho na wakohwe bi na wa share na wa like na odi wadwenche egu so edi amai se utika mu se wonam kwan ho na wo TV a wo phone so no wobetimi abo KFM TV GH na wahwe new CB ewo ho de amaye enigede nsem ana edusui na enche bia ene beto odwa se wokopiem ewo asantemantam a eye rapper ba kwa wagidin wo ho ye papa e friend se eye ose krom sikeni no ebeto odwa se wekonya ka kwenhia eno enam so ema no epra kaka na wo se krom sikeni de abeto odwa wochim se sa kwenhia eto no nyankopon ana eyi ne efiri isa se senia ne ka no esifa eja ehwihwiye no na wonu de wonji ni se wo besan aye nipa biem na sesi anyankopon asa ede ne nkwa ache no wo chese nani agiye papa na konhyai esiye emra na wonam eye kumase kwantempon yi eso no ana sa konhyai etimi esiya wo chese ne ka no ye ka samasota samasoti ye be se impren enwotwe 8 times na ninia emu no ose sikeni chemu se nyankopon pon ache ne bio wogina ne nan so bra ne epra de wo pra kakra bi na mum enye pra bi a echi su bia nti amanebo a eno so efri eye ose sikeni akache eba eno no onya akwanhia na mum nyankopon de ne nkwa eche na sisi a wosan egina ne nan so biom de emu pipia ebusuafo ye gusua ewo enigede nsem no emu na ye toa so de amamode a eye nana aba anamwa eye nsemtwoni ewo oman Ghana hasina na watwi anokopie mu ewo show baako eso na wodi nsem dodo na etudwa wo chemu se eye ankane deputy minister edema tourism arts and culture eye onmonyam for mark okrekumante na banamwa de abetudwa wo chem se endani day wonu ohia eye mark eye okrekumanta wone no ewo nsem ba komienu bi a ewo so oyi eho an wone ne nyefan esanse mra de breakers we ebehye ne nsa no na banamwa echese papa entimi anye bibi papa bia amfa mboa eye entertainment industry ewo my Ghana hand obeye ye no wamboa entertainment industry no cross si ade wonu suka ho bi ana Ghana ye entertainment industry no etimi aye basa ewo man emuanu nti ono de wonfa sobo no embo bia se eye mark okrekumante ana wode sobo no ebebo no semwe eye nana aba namwa ana wode tu edwa yentie ne nsema wode tu edwa no ebi.
Okay.
It was my disappointment in him because I felt that for someone who was coming from this industry, I expected better from him, for the creatives especially. I expected an improvement to move them from A to C, but their fortunes are just dwindling. It's getting worse every day. And he occupied an enviable position, and I expected him to do better. And so my rant was born out of my disappointment in him. And somebody asked me yesterday, it's as if you have a personal problem with him. Yes, I have a personal problem with him. Because if my taxes are used to pay your salary, it is personal.
Right.
If my taxes are used to fuel your tank, it is personal. Right? It's not like Rosalind, you are working here, you don't spend my money. And so whatever you do is your cup of tea.
Right.
But it's a different kettle of fish when it is national resource that is being used to pay you and you're not doing anything about your office. You're not fixing the problem. You can't fix all the problems.
Is he a friend of yours?
Well, I wouldn't say he's a friend. He's an acquaintance. Okay. Yeah, he's an acquaintance. I mean, if I meet him tomorrow, I will say hello to him, but I'll tell him the same thing I said. I'm that fearless.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
He hasn't tried to reach out to you after that interview?
Why would he? Why would he? I mean,
maybe he could have called you.
Unless I was lying. If I told Fibs, then he can pick up a phone and say, oh, you were wrong. I did A, B, C, D. But he didn't do X, Y, Z.
But has anybody approached you and said to you, Nana, you know him personally, you could have called him to tell him, I'm disappointed in you, Mark, rather than going on TV and ranting about it?
Oh, I don't know his number.
In some way, Anna, a Ghana, same tuning, Nana, Abanamwa, editu, ya watches say, a Mark Okrekumante, Anna, or your deputy minister for tourism, acting culture, or they etuja, a fan watches, and then they so Shana. obechia no nemom nsem bia wo so obisa no awotena eye TV so kai no sansem na ana wo bebisa no esan so obetena so no wanye ade papa bia amfa mwa entertainment industry sena na normal bia na wo hwehwe ade afri ne wo se wo beye ade abo Ghana ye entertainment industry no eye na na ba na mwa echem se Mark Okweku Mante entimi anye sa normal no ambo Ghana entertainment industry no nti nsem we ana afri na na ba na mwa akache so eba ebusuafo ye gina sansem ne so na ye de anopa no so news ye de ninia aba ewiye na anopa news nsem no de di mu akotene ebi ene se mampeni John Dramani Mahama apa 19 member cabinet hontoma endrada ewo mrashebedwa efie sa enso so ana Felix ofosu kwache enso de abetudwa wochim se mampeni John Dramani Mahama wonda kakra ntemu no eyade a wo the state of the nation's address no de di kan no wo de beba abetudwa de ama Ghana efo ye de dwa de ensem ebro Palm Oil Association a wo mo ewo my Ghana ha enso echese ngukokwa amanfo efiaman hodro so ebeto no sisi ade mo chese ate akofom ekodu 50% a wo mo ehia ha emboa weni gede ensem so no rapper a owo asantemantima friend se osei kum sikeni wanya ka kwehia wode nsem bi ebetu dwa ye dom esuko edima anopei weni nsem ene afoforo pi a ye bo ano a ye besom se ye de ebesom se KFM TV News asida enikabia enko enfama dadaba tech hub and se ope phone papa ato na ne bo so ewo fom boko edima wa dadaba tech hub nkwa ana obetimi edeweni atwese ye Infinix iPhone Tecno Samsung Yam ninia bi no odweni etwem dadaba tech hub obenya sa phones ninia bi a ebo no so edafom boko edima KFM Musical Center enso ese brana beje wo instrument papa ebo no eno so ewo from ha quality a beche ediama no KFM Musical Center pe na obetimi ediweni atwem ho womo aso kese no ewo Accra Zongolin Asante Mantem so womo ewo Kumasi Sambra Hotel ne nche ho na eho ana KFM Musical Center ewo a womo soso anope womo etimi ebo yichidoma ye de news ebro Talent Microfinance womo de ye ne omo ene ewo Abronsan Krono emu ewo Circle Adabraka dance ba hona ana Talent Microfinance ewo womo chese Mantem du ensiano emu edu de talent ewo ninia emu ansia no womugu so a womo den hyehye pa egu kwama no ti se wo ya ankranko adwumeko na ope baby edu sika esie no talent nkwa ana obetimi edi weni atwem ewo ho anope ndwumeko ekukudamwe ana womo ebo yichidom ma ye di KFM TV News no ye de ebesomo asida kese enko enfama wa wutifia no pay wudu efidie no etu KFM TV a wo hwe news ye besan ada production team ni na asese omoso omo boa ye ma news ye de ebro edin a meje so anope ene Maame Esi Nkrumah ye da mu ina ase emamo amo yakramo